The first time I ever went ice skating, I was 7 years old, and I'd seen it a couple of times, like on movies or in TV. So yeah, I was excited. It was something new, and it was with one of those holiday vacation care programs that they have typically during the Christmas holidays, and you go off for a day and do an activity with the group, something like that. So for this particular day, we went down to the Macquarie Centre ice rink, and I put my ice skates on and got out onto the rink, and for the next hour and a half, I did laps of the rink, just like this, clop, 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 just either holding onto the wall or just going diagonally back and forth across the rink, and that was it. It wasn't much fun. There's people whizzing past who were doing it with such ease, and I didn't have a clue how to do it, you know. I remember I fell over a couple of times, and I scooped up some of the hacked up ice, and put it in my mouth. I don't know why. I think I was just curious. I was like, "Yeah, let's eat some ice," and that was the extent of my first time trying to ice skate, I should say. Now the other thing is that closer to home there was a roller skating rink, and this was back when rollerblading was all the craze. So you had these people there who could rollerblade, and that was the in thing, and I didn't know how to do it. All I could do was put on roller skates, and I don't know if roller skating was daggy, but it felt like more like something that my parents would have done. It felt like something out of the 50s or the 60s. I wanted to rollerblade with the cool kids, but I didn't know how to do it. I didn't have an older brother or someone to show me how to rollerblade, and I definitely wasn't going to go up to some random and go, "Excuse me, could you teach me how to rollerblade?" Like, no, you're not going to do that. So I just had to wear the old roller skates and do it that way, while other kids could put their blades on and just scoot by. And it was frustrating because you want to fit in at that age. You want to do the cool thing, and I didn't know how to do it, and I wasn't going to ask somebody. It got to a point. By this stage, I was about 10, 11 years old. And I was at my cousin's house one night, and he had a pair of rollerblades. He had this pair of black blades with like purple wheels on them. They looked really cool. And I don't remember exactly how the discussion came up. I think I was wheeling them along on my hands or something. I remember wheeling them along the carpet with the blades in my hands, and at some point I told him that I didn't really know how to rollerblade, or words to that effect. I can't remember exactly how I let it slip that I didn't know how to do it. But he offered to take me out the front and show me, because they had a carport out the front, and they had this driveway that ran along the side of the house out onto the side street that they lived on. Because there was a busy main road next to the house, but then it was separated by this little side street, a quiet side street. And it was night time as well, so we didn't have to worry about traffic or anything. So we went out the front, and sitting on the edge of the front porch, I laced on his rollerblades, and under the porch light and the street lights, he spent the next few minutes just showing me how to do it. And the first mistake I realised is that I'd been trying to use the same technique as walking or roller skating. You know, I'd been going sort of trying to do forward movements like that, but as my cousin showed me, you had to, with rollerblades, you had to push out like a V formation like that. Push out. And it took me probably 5-10 minutes to work that out. But as soon as I'd figured out, I could rollerblade up the driveway, the side of his place, out onto the street, and I could do loops and come back, and I remember it so clearly to this day. It was such a feeling of relief, like just finally I can do this. Next time I go to the roller skating rink, I can rollerblade. It's not some unconquered frontier now. I know how to rollerblade, and it was such a good feeling. So of course, next time I went to the skating rink, I could rollerblade, and it wasn't all that long after that an old friend, he had a pair of rollerblades that he didn't really use, and his mother offered to give them to me, and so yeah, I took them, and I could rollerblade all through the street with the other kids, and problem solved. The real eye-opener was when I was in year 7 by this time, and I went down to the Macquarie Centre. It was with youth group one Friday night, and I used exactly the same technique that I'd used to rollerblade with ice skates. I mean, logically it would work, wouldn't it? That's where rollerblading came from, ice skating. And yet, suddenly, surprise, surprise, ice skating wasn't difficult for me. It was much easier. I could do laps of that same rink that I'd struggled on as a 7-year-old, at the age of like 12, 13 now. Yeah, I could easily do laps. I wasn't the fastest guy there, but I was competent at it. I got it because I had the know-how from rollerblading because my cousin had shown me how to do it. So, yeah, and then it got to the point where by the end of high school, a couple of times we'd go to the rink with some mates, and by this stage I could do the flying laps. Like, I could actually do an entire lap of the rink on one foot. I could go backwards, I could do all of that. I had an old friend, and he'd spent his formative years in the US, and he'd talk about putting an ice hockey team together sometimes. And I remember at the end of one night when we'd been out on the rink with friends, and he came over, he's like, dude, I want you on my ice hockey team. And unfortunately that never eventuated, but it felt good to get that kind of compliment from him. Around that same time, I remember I was on a family holiday, and the resort that we were at, it had an ice skating rink. And I was like 17 at the time, and I was comfortably doing laps of the rink, but I saw this kid. He was probably like 9 years old, 10 years old, not much older than I was the first time that I went ice skating, and he was struggling a bit. He was probably a little bit better than I was at my first time, but you could see he wasn't entirely comfortable with it. And so what I did was I showed him the basics. I went aside and showed him how to do it and did a lap or two with him, and yeah, by the end of that session he was better. It felt good. It felt good to see a kid who was once in the same position that I was, and to help them get that little bit better, that little bit more competent at ice skating. And I've got no doubt that translated into rollerblading as well if he took it up. So the thing is that there can be these things where they feel so difficult and they feel unattainable, but then it's one or two little things that you do differently, one or two little things that you learn, and that completely swings things for you. Suddenly you're competent at it, or you can even do it well. And it's just because of doing one or two different things differently, learning a new technique, and that's what fixes it all. So I'm just wondering, if you write your own copy, do you read it and does something feel off to you? Like maybe you read the stuff that you're putting out there in your emails, or the stuff that you're trying to write on your website or on blog articles, anything like that, and you read it and it's either not getting the results that you'd like to be getting, or when you read it, something just doesn't feel right. Like you look at what other people are putting out there and you just think, oh man, like what they write is so amazing, but I don't know how they're doing it. And that's the frustrating thing, isn't it? Like me as a kid watching these people fly past on ice skates or rollerblades, you'd like to be able to do it to that level of competency, but you just don't know how. So what I wanted to offer is to take a look at what you're doing, take a look at the copy that you're putting out there, and make a couple of suggestions for you. Because maybe the only thing stopping you from being able to sit back and look at what you've written and to take pride in it and to go, oh yeah, that actually sounds good, I'm proud to put my name to that. Maybe the only difference between where you're at now and having that kind of feeling, having that feeling of accomplishment, is just one or two little adjustments. And maybe all it's going to take is for somebody like me to take a look at what you've got, to have a chat with you, and to offer you my feedback. I mean, I've been writing for years, not just for myself, but for clients as well. So I would be very surprised if the problems that you're having are something that I haven't seen before and something that I haven't helped other clients with. So if that interests you, if you'd like to get a bit of help with that, there's a link down below, and you'll see it just in the links down below there. Take a look at that, click that link, and let's see if we can organise something. And what I'll do is I'll have a look at your copy, I'll show you what you need and what you can get rid of, just those little adjustments, because maybe that's going to make all the difference between reading your copy back and having that feeling of, versus reading your copy back and taking some pride in it and actually feeling like, yeah, this stuff's good, and then putting it out there and seeing the results from that. And it could just be one or two little adjustments. So like I said, guys, if that interests you, just click the link below. You'll see it right there. And let's organise a consultation. and hopefully I'll talk to you soon. And we can take your copy from the equivalent of 7-year-old me trying to ice skate around that rink to me now when I go ice skating, and you'll feel that same flow to everything that you write. So I hope to hear from you soon, guys. Until next time, take it easy.